Look, when your government was
I'm just trying to get a sense from, because you're close to the Iranian regime, I want to get a sense of whether...
What does that mean exactly? I'm close to the Iranian regime. Is that how you introduce academics from your own country?
No. In the way that I...
Before we get into this, this clip is a couple months old, but the conversation happening in it is nowhere near finished. So everything you're about to watch still applies to what's going on right now. We've got an Iranian academic named Mohammad Marandi facing off against a Western journalist. And it doesn't take long before things get tense. I'm going to let it play all the way through, then come back and break it down. Make sure you subscribe to the Evan Tate Show. Hit the like button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Now let's get into it.
The protests that are taking place, the latest round of protests, they seem to be pretty intense and pretty persistent, up to and including this latest tweet or post from the US president. What do you say is going on there? What do you say those protests are about?
Well, there are two issues here. One is that because of the U.S. sanctions and the European sanctions, basically because of Iran's policy against Israel,
What is Iran's policy against Israel?
Yes, because
what is it?
The whole sanction, Iran's position?
Against Israel, yeah.
Yeah, Iran says that Israel is an apartheid state. It is not morally legitimate, and that Palestinians have the right to return, just like apartheid South Africa.
That it shouldn't
and
exist.
And back then,
that it shouldn't exist. It's not. Is that
no?
What you mean?
As an apartheid entity, no.
But
apartheid should not exist anyway. Your government was
I'm just trying to get a sense from, because you're close to the Iranian regime, I want to get a sense of whether...
What does that mean exactly? I'm close to the Iranian regime. Is that how you introduce academics from your own country?
No. In the way that I know that I'm close in terms of having easy access to and contact with and conversations with members of the cabinet. That's all I meant. I didn't mean...
Would you call them the regime?
Well,
would you say it like the...
Do you want to go into that?
Yeah, sure. Well, what's the question?
Well, have there been regular democratic elections that...
No, you were talking about Israel.
Oh, okay, we'll go back
Iran's
to that.
position on Israel...
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a sense of whether
Iran's position on Israel is identical to its position on apartheid South Africa. When your government was supporting the supremacist regime in South Africa, the Iranians were supporting the ANC and Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
The same logic applies to Palestine.
Right. So it's not the existence of Israel, it's the nature of this Israeli state. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
That Iran's opposed to.
The state,
not its very existence.
The state could be called Palestine, it could be called Israel, it could be called Walt Disney, but as an apartheid state for Iran, this is not acceptable.
And isn't Iran something of an apartheid state, particularly if you're a woman?
Have you ever been to Iran?
No, but there's lots of countries I haven't been to that I know about, hear about, read about, speak to people about.
It's not an apartheid state. No, it's not an apartheid state.
Women are dragged off the street for not wearing the veil?
No, that's not true at all.
It is true.
Well, you can say it's true, but that doesn't make it a fact.
I think most people listening know that it is true.
I live in Iran. Many journalists come to Iran. Journalists that you can invite, Jewish journalist Max Blumenthal from the Gray Zone, invite him on your show. And he's been to Iran just recently for a couple of weeks. He went to different cities on his own with his wife, who's also a journalist. Ask him if any women have been dragged off the streets anywhere that he's been to.
So you're denying that the Iranian government forces women to wear the veil, the hijab?
Well, veil is one thing.
I know it is. That's why I corrected myself. And those that don't want to...
You mean a headscarf?
The headscarf.
A headscarf.
And those that don't want to cover their hair, it's trouble for them, isn't it?
No, nothing happens to them. No, nothing happens to them. And some of my students on campus, in classrooms on campus, they don't wear headscarves. So I think your understanding.
But is your I'm just trying to get a sense. Is your assertion that in Iran, in the last decade, and even more recently than that, not a single woman, particularly a protesting young woman, has been detained and in one case died in custody with wounds from beating because she had her hair shown? You don't believe that happened?
No. Mahsa Amini had no wounds. There is no footage. There is footage of her And in the footage, there is nothing that shows that she was beaten. She had a precondition. Yes, she was taken in, but she was not beaten for her dress. There is a law in Iran about a dress code, because whether you like it or not, they believe that the way in which the West promotes women is sexualization, commodification, objectification. So they'll have their own cultural boundaries, whether you agree with it or not.
Well, you've said to me
whether you agree with it or not.
Yeah.
It doesn't. That's one thing. But women being dragged off the streets in Tehran, I've never seen that happen myself.
No, but
this
that
is like
doesn't
when
mean it
they keep
hasn't
saying
happened, does it?
gays in Iran are executed. I've never seen a gay person in Iran executed.
But
this is sort
that doesn't
of the
mean it's
myth
never happened. Does it?
No.
Just because you haven't seen a woman being dragged off the streets doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
No,
I'm
not saying it's never happened.
And you are wrong
like
to
in
say,
London,
if I can just
like
say,
in
you are
London,
wrong
if
to
you
say
hold-
that Mahsa Amini had no injuries. She had physical injuries, including a skull fracture and brain edema.
No, she didn't. No.
Well, an independent
No, that's
medical
not-
analysis and a UN fact-finding mission determined that she did.
There was no UN.
The video you just saw isn't just a debate. It is a masterclass in how the Western corporate media acts as a stenographer for the military-industrial complex. We see a journalist attempting to bully an academic, not to find the truth, but to reinforce a prepackaged narrative that justifies endless intervention and economic warfare. This is the same playbook used by the GOP and the MAGA movement. Label anyone who resists the corporate empire as a regime. Notice the framing. The journalist immediately tries to delegitimize the speaker by using the word regime. This is a classic conservative tactic, dehumanize the opposition to justify starving their people with maximum pressure sanctions. These sanctions don't hurt the elites. They crush the working class, denying ordinary families access to medicine and basic goods. The GOP loves to talk about freedom while championing economic strangulation that kills the very people they claim to support. The hypocrisy is deafening. While the American right-wing screams about human rights abroad, they are the same forces dismantling voting rights, reproductive freedom, and labor protections right here at home. They weaponize human rights only when it serves the interest of corporate dominance and arms manufacturers. When Iran points out that Israel is practicing apartheid, the Western media shuts down because the truth threatens the $1 billion. The transcript exposes the reality of the proxy narrative. They call resistance groups terrorists while providing the bombs for a verified genocide in Gaza. It is the same logic the conservatives used against Nelson Mandela and the ANC labeling freedom fighters as criminals to protect a white supremacist status quo. Today, the MAGA movement carries that torch, fueling a xenophobic foreign policy that prioritizes oil and influence over human life and international law. We are told to be outraged by dress codes in Tehran, while the American right wing moves to criminalize trans existence and force women into state-mandated pregnancies. The common good is being sacrificed on the altar of a global far-right alliance that values profit over people. They want us distracted by foreign monsters so we don't notice the corporate monsters at home stripping away our healthcare and our future. We cannot allow the corporate media and the MAGA warhawks to dictate the reality of our world. Their rules-based order is a thin veil for a profit-based empire. It is time to dismantle the narrative that justifies the suffering of the global working class for the sake of the elite's geopolitical chess game. The resistance starts with refusing to accept their propaganda as fact. Digital mobilization is our greatest weapon. Share this, expose the contradictions, and demand an end to the sanctions that kill and the wars that bankrupt our nation. We don't need more maximum pressure on foreign civilians. We need maximum pressure on the corporate elite who are bleeding this country dry. Organize, resist, and reclaim the common good from the hands of the warmongers.